Welcome to Quantifiable Everything, this roundtable on the Internet of Things. I'd like to begin this session by reading the quote that we already have on the event description for this, which is quoting one of the participants here, Bruce Sterling. He said this in his opening speech for last year's transmediale afterglow. So I tried to read this, not try to imitate too much your voice, Bruce. Stop pretending that bits don't decay or that the virtual lacks any real-world consequences. The Internet of Things is at hand. Things that are Internet. Internet that is things. It's gonna settle that argument once and for all. That's all I want to say about the topics of the discussions, because also they will be introduced more in full by the participants and by our moderator, Peter Fries. I'd like to thank Luis Girao of the ICT Art Connect initiative for actually bringing this panel to Transmediale, and to the European Commission. We have the support through the ICT Art Connect initiative. I'd like to thank Ralf Dum, also the European Commission, and Peter Fries, who agreed to take on the moderation job as part of his mission there. He will talk a bit more about what the EC is doing about the Internet of Things. So Peter Fries is a senior official of European Commission at DG Connect. He's taking care of the research and innovation policy for the Internet of Things, in particular IoT ecosystems, large-scale pilots, M2M, which I have no idea what it is, smart cities, cloud computing, big data, future Internet, trusted Internet of Things. So there are all these kind of buzzwords today that we need to kind of untangle, I think, and research agendas. And he further oversees the international cooperation on the Internet of Things from the EC. So I'd like Peter to introduce the session and enjoy this quantification of everything. Thanks.
Yeah. So hello, good morning to everybody. So you see, I spent all my days just balancing around the buzzwords. By the way, M2M is machine-to-machine communication. It's a little bit like the one element of the Internet of Things. Yeah, I think many thanks for coming this morning. I guess we all had maybe some troubles to get up very early, but now we do here, and I think that's good because the subject is really interesting. It's not innocent, but it's also a playful one. And I think what is most helpful that we have a very nice and large panel, and then we have you, because there are many, many different perspectives on the Internet of Things, on the quantified self. It's a subject which is certainly going to have to do with the future of society. People are talking about the hyper-connected society. There are many issues at stake, right? It's a lot about tracing and tracking. It's a lot about profiling. It's maybe also that we are getting more and more computer controlled. But nevertheless, there is a good chance that we can use it in a positive way. And I think if you this morning can have a look on that and go beyond maybe simple things like I said, the program, the fridge who is ordering for you some stuff, mate or coca, so like things you can do, and also that we identify the critical issues and maybe have a way forward. And I can just say from European Commission, we are very much interested because often we are talking to industry people, to universities, but we are more and more interested to talk to those people who actually realize it, who have maybe small ideas, or bring it out to a just maker, who bypass the official systems, and because we think that's part of the future of society, so you have to get connected to those people. And that's also my mission of being here today, is to meet different people than I normally do. Now, before we start, rapidly the panel, it was already said, Luis is from RChair, he's based in Brussels, and he coordinates mainly an EC initiative start, so he's the mastermind between this initiative. Bruce Sterling was already quoted. If he's not in the US, he's hiding away in Italy. He's an American science fiction author and design journalist. We have Frank Rieger from the Chaos Computer Group Germany, and we have David Cuartielles, Arduino, and representing University of Malmö. So if you allow, I would just tell a few words on what the European Commission Director General Connect, all about connecting society networks, is doing about the Internet of Things. I'm on the subject for about 8 years, but then I would like to give the floor, of course, to my panelists, and then at the end we try to have an engaging discussion. Then I should also switch on with the light that we continue better. So I'll see that I try to get the PowerPoint running. Okay. So yes, exactly. Good. So this is part, as I said, this workshop of the START initiative. The START initiative is really to bring together scientists and artists. And I think in the way that it's not that we use again the artists if we make better science, but I think really that both can learn and benefit. And I think if we talk about science, we also talk about innovation and bring it to application. I think what we sometimes from the Commission feel is that ultimately it's not that you try to have more devices, sensors, it's all smarter, but we feel that ultimately we have a few problems on the planet, right? It's about sustainability, it's about coherence, and coherence more that there is less inequality, which today we face in a strong way, and it's about growth in a sustainable way. I think there's still agreement that growth is important, but deregulated and what we have today, growth beyond all what is sensible and reasonable is not the right way. So we feel that ultimately the IoT can contribute to that way and can be also seen in this respect. It's helpful, maybe good for society. I think what's happening is that around this Internet of Things area, we see things which have been already in the science fiction in the 80s, 90s, and recently. And I feel right now, if you see the design, if you see the device, if you see the interconnectivity, it's gradually happening, right? And I also feel that already problems addressed in those films, in those movies, are coming through. It's about the tracing, it's about transparency, and how to say, there's no more less privacy, but also all the fancy things, we get connected and we can do what we want in a snapshot time. I feel like maybe the early days of e-business, you remember maybe the 2000, that the Internet of Things is there, but at the same time it's not there. It's certainly there if it comes that we connect more and more devices, we try to get data, we hope that big data is going to solve the problem that we have too many data, and then of course we hope that we can create value and we're extracting the data and having maybe offering better services and all what you want. But I feel often it's not there, because first of all we still have troubles to identify the objects, to find them, and maybe also to use them. I guess also that we are often talking about sensors rather than the IoT is certainly also about actuation, if it comes to Arduino, and it's about smart objects. But today we are just trying to connect. And I think often that if it comes down to interoperability, technical and semantically, it's still not there. So we are talking about, but there still is a lot of research and I would say innovation breakthrough necessary that really can have put it to the next level. Today we are staying in silos, we try often to improve what we have. There's an area, of course, where people try to do it differently. So we have a very young IoT specialist. But still, I feel it's not, there's no full breakthrough. It's gradually coming, but there's still some way to be done. I think what I see is basically there are different communities and they're coming from different needs, right? We have the classical verticals, so we have, of course, the big ICT companies, but we have also major companies in the industry, General Electric, or you have the automotive companies, BMW and so on. And they feel often we can do more. We connect, we get data, we can optimize our processes. But it stays mainly in the verticals, right? And it's very difficult if you want, for example, to connect a smart home with a smart car because you have completely different players and different interests. I think there's also a lot about new horizons, the makers and the artists, because they feel it differently. First of all, I say, I can do it directly, it's very easy, I can express myself, I can bypass ways, but they're also much quicker because often you're not sure about the way you could use a sensor or an IoT solution. And people ask you, what's the business model? And they say, And in the old days, M2M from the telecom was machine-to-machine communication was one of the business models because you could calculate the data rate. But often it's like you start it simply, you have an idea to try to connect, you have a solution, and all of a sudden maybe you might have success and goes on. And those people, they are not driven by process efficiency, right? And I also feel that what we often don't have a look, and even in my responsibility, is there's a lot of IoT going to happen, of course, in security, defense, and space, whereas most likely, I guess, security and defense are maybe less innocent. So all around the drones and this augmented or computer-supported war support or war prevention is certainly an area where a lot's going to happen, but it's maybe in the research there's some connection, but it's decoupled in terms of application, of course, in terms of cross-exchange. What we feel right now is that there has been a lot of IoT actors out, but because there's no one and only solution, and because you need to cooperate, even large companies, we spoke recently with Samsung, they cannot provide a solution or have all the components on board, you need to cooperate. That's why we feel that the ecosystems where you have maybe larger and smaller players collaborating, and not that the big one is eating up the small one, and even that you understand that even your client is part of an ecosystem, not just maybe a bloody customer, but you feel that he's part, that you can learn from him, and then maybe you can offer better service. So this IoT ecosystem perspective is right now what we are promoting. Sorry, that was too quick. Okay. So now you've seen all the slides, I can just go quicker. And after this ecosystem, the next perspective has what we take our IoT large-scale pilots. So we don't hope that's going to be IoT large-scale nightmares. It's basically that what we want, we say it's often important if you talk about IoT and if it goes like to this smart agri-food or it goes about the smart transport, they want to support elderly people because society is getting older and older, that you really need to have many players on board. So you have to see the full chain from those people really being into it up to the people getting providing the service and what's going to happen. And then of course you can also better address issues like security, privacy, you can talk about interoperability, you can talk maybe about object identification. So we hope and we want to support this in 2016-17 that those large-scale pilots and dedicated areas might contribute for a larger breakthrough. And even if you talk to big companies, I said this before, they're all saying we do IoT with IoT, but basically what is for some kinds of applications how to carve out the right solution, it's still a problem. You have to make technology choices, you have everybody looking, where can I make business, what can I do, what is the new way? And we feel that this large-scale pilots can be a playground where even those big players can identify where they can commonly team up and go ahead, right? What is also important from the European Commission side is, of course, there's a policy component, right? In a way that, first of all, we try to push or to encourage standardization. We need the standardization that you can really bring out the solution and then it can be an equal playground. Of course, this takes always time, but we feel that's a way that it can be beneficial for the take-up of IoT. There's a lot about governance, so I think we're going to talk about, and it was discussed during this festival, what do you do with the data, how do you handle that, who in the end is reliable if a door doesn't open, you have an elderly person, so who is reliable if there's a problem. So this we want to address. There's also a huge question about the privacy. And then recently there was the announcement by the Google CEO saying we are going to be the Internet of Things the way we move, which means basically, he said privacy is a notion from the past. So maybe then it comes more to the idea about trust, and of course still we have the issues about security if things go wrong. Okay, I think what would be nice from my side if we could later on discuss the following questions. What does mean the quantifiable everything? That's like, what can we do? What are the chances? How can we understand? How should we even promote it or frame it? The potential vision between the banal use cases like the fridge. So is the creative approach from IoT going beyond, oh, it's dangerous or whatever. And I think still what the social cultural challenges and opportunities. So in the end, in a higher perspective, what is good, what can we do, and how can we contribute? So that's just a few statements what the European Commission is going to do. Of course, I'm happy later on we can talk on that directly. I now would like to move on to the speakers of the roundtable. The first one is Girao, who is very much into this combination of ICT and art. And if you talk about ICT and art, you are very close, of course, to the IoT, the Internet of Things. And he has been very much promoting the way that closed systems and even closed research programs like we have open up, that you try to have different people in who think differently and maybe come at the end contribute to different solutions. Luis, the floor is yours.